Hey, welcome everybody to Inside the Upside Down. Author and ghost story Mike Ricksecker. With me, as always, Shauna Wankel, also a fantastic writer. She's sharing it out, which I'll be doing here shortly. But yeah, I don't even know how to follow up from earlier. So we had a great time on Edge of the Rabbit Hole earlier this evening with Steve DeShavi. Great guy. Quick hour. If you missed it, after this show, please go back to the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel and check out that show with Steve DeShavi. We had an absolutely fantastic time, and I see that people are already starting to filter into the chat here. So thank you guys very much for joining us. We're going to be talking about spirit attachments tonight, really. And, it's kind of culminating an entire week where, I have to admit, Annabelle inspired this whole thing. New Annabelle movie comes out on Thursday. Sorry, I'm still just a little disjointed from earlier. It was a very adrenaline rushing show with Steve. Got to admit it. So F-bomb after F-bomb, they're going to censor the hell out of us on YouTube. But
I don't even like network TV, but I enjoyed that show a lot.
Yeah, Steve is about as real as you can get. So that was a lot of fun. And and everybody's saying that was an awesome show down in the chat already. So
a lot of people were saying we need to get Amy on, and then we need to get the both of them in the room together.
That would be pretty cool. Would be pretty cool. Actually, I've had Amy on my Facebook since before the show. So every once in a while, we would have like a little, almost kind of like you and I occasionally having like a little comment here, a little comment there. And then, ever since the show, I don't know if she has other people managing her Facebook now or what have you, but we could try to get Amy on there. I think it'd be a good show. Yeah. And then Greg Rankin is just like, fuck those fucking fuckers. Well, I think there were some comments down in there that were talking about the old George Carlin skit, usage of the word fuck. In any case, we're talking about spirit attachments on this show. And that was hilarious with what Steve was out fucking Vanessa. I mean, he was even busting a gut. I mean, he was rolling. So in any case, we're talking spirit attachments on this show. Inspired by Annabelle, I know. So so we ended up doing a Haunted Dolls episode for Friday Night Ghost Frights this past Friday. Oh my gosh, I can't even think now. The podcast I did, I'm sorry, I kept thinking blog, but I'm like, not blog. The podcast I did this past weekend was on Robert the Doll, then our Rabbit Pellet, that was my personal one, Mike Ricksecker audio journey. Then on the Edge of the Rabbit Hole Rabbit Pellet, we did some stuff about spirit attachments, specifically haunted objects, in just like quick 15 minutes. And then, of course, again, Annabelle's coming out this week. So we're kind of going to dive even like more, deeper into this. So people, objects, buildings, all of that. The photo for this show, which I guess was only in the event, I don't have it up here. When I repost this out on YouTube, I'll put it up there. But the photo for the show was basically you in Molly's room, because Molly seems to now be following you around like everywhere.
Everywhere.
So you could call Molly an attachment.
I would definitely say that.
So why? Why is Molly following you?
I don't know. Maybe. Well, as Donna from Zen said, maybe she just, has developed an attachment to me because she gravitates towards some of the qualities that I have.
When do you think it really started happening? Was it after that time, that video that we've shown that clip probably about in 5 different videos now, of when you broke down and cried and got really emotional last fall? We had Zara the zombie doll in there. You saw the shimmer. All kinds of weird stuff was going on with EMF, which seemed to like land on you, and then you broke down. Has it been since then or another time?
It wasn't very long after that I started seeing that same shimmer. So I can't pinpoint the exact moment that I noticed that it was in other places, but it was after that. So it didn't start happening the night that her name, kind of came at me, if that is in fact her name. It wasn't that night. It wasn't until the doll incident.
All right. And so Tim's showing us straight up asking, is Molly followed you home from Mineral Springs?
Yes.
Yeah, that's happened.
Yeah, she comes here. I've seen her at work. I've seen her like outside. She's been in my car. Just everywhere I go. She was at 518. She went to the Mexican restaurant to eat with us, apparently. And then the night of the Paracon.
You saw her at Bluff City Grill.
Yeah, and she was at Bluff City's Grill, and she stood like practically right on Donna, like behind Donna during the majority of the meal. So, and then she was kind of lurking around Adam there for a minute.
Adam Tillery?
Tillery, yeah.
Okay.
Down in the lobby. So, yeah, she's just kind of everywhere now.
And you mostly see her as this shimmer.
Yeah, like a heat mirage, but it's also like if your car's running and it's hot, when the fan kicks on, how you kind of see the heat, come up from it. That's exactly what it looks like.
A quick little something here. Justin Brown says that he's chilling, getting ready for Madison Seminary in Mid-South. So, Justin, you going to be at Mid-South? Because I am also going to be there. So, be good to see you there. Now, that's... Okay, shimmer, heat mirage, is that only how you see her? Or are there other ways as well?
That's the only way.
Okay.
The twinkles and stuff like that, the little buzz light, that happened way before.
Yeah, that happened back with the goldenrod.
Yeah.
But you still see those too.
I still see those too.
And I occasionally see the twinkles. So it's not just a you thing with those. Yeah. So, so it's interesting that she is now following. Does she ever like try to communicate with you? And I know I'm kind of like being specific with Molly, but we'll get into some other things here too.
I mean, there's sometimes I usually don't feel whenever she comes up on me unless I'm not paying attention. And she's like, "Excuse me," and then I'll feel like a little buzz and I'll look up and, oh, there she is. But usually I don't. I'm usually pretty aware when she's around, just because every time I look up, it feels like she's there. Just everywhere. She'll be in here. Usually,
yeah, you've seen her in here before.
Yeah, usually she's like over in that area, and sometimes we'll hear stuff over there, and so, I don't feel like any temperature changes when she's around, except for if like the temperature around where she's at doesn't change. But I know, like at Mineral Springs, like if she touches me, her touch is cool. It's like a not really frigid, like cold, but it's just cool. And so
so she has actually reached out and
Yeah.
touched you. Okay. Jason Snyder is also going to be there at Mid-South. So cool. See you there, Justin or Jason. Well, Justin and Jason. I'm sorry. I was talking to Jason. Saw Justin's name down there. Been a long night already, but a good one. All right. So we've seen that specifically with Molly. The twinkles happens, and what's interesting about the twinkles, they started happening on the goldenrod, but it was after our return to the goldenrod. I really should say your return, because most of my investigating of the goldenrod was after that. I only had the one time before it was shut down for a while, and it was after coming back, after it had been shut down for a while, that there was something else going on with the boat. And I remember sitting there on the stage, and you'd seen that twinkle back off in the corner, and I didn't see it yet. I remember a little bit later on that big twinkle, like boom, right next to the camera.
Yeah, I was like,
we
hey,
had the tripod and everything set up.
It's like don't touch that stuff over there.
Yeah.
Talking to it, didn't even know exactly what we were talking to or what it was capable of yet. I don't feel anything bad coming from them. I really don't feel much of anything, to be honest. Like when they're around, I'm just like, oh, you know, every once in a while one will get close and it'll be like, oh, okay. And then you can tell that something just happened. But there's been times where it's been more than just the twinkles. Like I'll see like the actual little, like a little golf ball sized light, you know, pop up every once in a while. Kind of candle flame colored sometimes. And I can't really pinpoint exactly, you know, what's going on at the time that it happens. Just sometimes that's what I see. And I usually see it like one time. Like before I moved here, the other place, I saw one pop up like in the yard about a foot from me. And I was like, whoa, and I jumped and I think I scared it. And I was like, oh God, no, please come back, you know, and then it popped up again, but it was like a little further away. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, look, you scared the crap out of me. I'm sorry. You know, I wasn't expecting, you know, announce yourself next time. But, you know, that was the announcement. Here I am, you know, they don't want to talk. Whatever it is doesn't want to talk, or at least not where I can hear it. So,
but they've been following ever since the goldenrod.
Yeah.
Just kind of showing up.
Inside, outside. But they're
in
just
front of the
everywhere.
cars I'm driving, I've seen that.
Yeah.
And no,
like
it wasn't
outside.
lightning bug season. Sorry.
No. Yeah. Like outside, you know, see them outside. And, you know, when you're going down the road and all of a sudden, bloop, it's like, whoa, hi.
So Donna Gordon's wondering if it was Molly we've heard in the background before.
I don't know. I've never heard her voice.
Yeah, you've just gotten impressions from her.
Yeah.
You know, like
that's
the whole M name, Molly, all that was impressions that you got, not an actual voice. Now, we did, if it was her, we do have EVPs.
Yeah, there is a female voice saying my name in that room.
Yep. There's the female voice saying your name, Shauna. There's female voice saying, hey, as we were walking out of that room, about to go somewhere else, say, hey. We still left because we didn't hear it audibly. Yeah. We caught it later. Went into another room. The chair moved. We went back. And then there was the whole, where are you going? EVP.
I mean, that may be her.
It could have been her.
You know, back then, I just always assumed it was Pearl walking around following. You know, I don't think she stays in her room. I think she goes wherever she wants to go. And she was the most dominant one up there, at least to me, so I just always assumed that it was her. And then
and Dave and Donna have seen her, Pearl, down there in the lobby area, so we know that she moves around.
Yeah
Justin Brown saying, I have seen an entity that looked like light being bent by heat energy before. It's really weird. So it sounds like similar to what you see. I don't see Molly as the shimmer. That's what Shauna sees it like, her like that. So
my friend Kia has seen her. She saw her
Kia
at the Paracon. And she saw her like I saw her. And she, you know, when we were talking about her and I asked her, you know, I said, you know, she's like close. She's around, you know, I've seen her around. She was like, oh yeah. She goes, I saw, and she described what I see. So I was like, okay, this is not just me that sees her. So.
Yeah, Donna saying, no, not voice. We've heard sounds there in the studio. And then Greg asking, was it Molly you heard to your left there in your studio? I mean, I guess some of the sounds we've heard, we don't know.
I have no idea.
We don't know who or what it may be. I know you've seen the twinkle in here before. But yeah, we've heard sounds in here before. Things kind of moving around a little bit. But we don't know if it's anybody or anything specific. Bree Jones, Shauna, could it be it doesn't have a voice? Voice was damaged somehow?
I don't know. I mean, I'm on the fence. I don't know why she doesn't talk, but I have to also, you know, not throw out the fact that was her voice before last year's Paracon. It could very well be her. That could have been her speaking out, you know, and then not so much after that until, you know, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I can't say, you know, I still cannot say with 100% certainty that her name is even Molly. And I cannot, you know, and until I have documentation, it is just personal.
Your impression.
It's my personal feelings, you know, just based on the very strong reaction I got to it.
It'll be tough to get documentation because, you know, as Dave has pointed out many, many times, you know, over the course of the years, There were over 1 million people that went through those doors. And then at the time frame that we think Molly may have been in there, we have no idea. There's no way to keep track because it was, the building was destitute. Mm-hmm. And all kinds of people were breaking in there and doing all kinds of nefarious things. So there's no way to really track that. So, I mean, we'll keep trying and see what we get. Maybe she'll give us some more information as time goes on. But, that's going to be hard to actually prove that that's what her name is. But for now, it works.
I call her that. I haven't felt like she doesn't like it. So,
she's been good with it.
Yeah, she seems okay with it. I would love for that to be her name so that she, has an identity and someone, for whatever reason, it happened the way that it did, that it came to me like that. I can't really take all of the credit for that. I think conditions were just favorable that night for the channel to be a little clearer, and that's why it happened.
All right.
Yeah, because that stuff doesn't happen to me all the time.
Tom McNicholas has an interesting question here. He asks, do you think that a spiritual attachment are evoked by a person's willingness to have them around? So, you're open to the idea of, spiritual activity.
Yeah.
So
I'm not open to the idea of just anybody following me. There has to be some kind of, I've come into contact with many a spirit over the years, but not all of them follow me home. So, I have to have established some type of connection with them. Otherwise, I'm just like, okay, Molly, come on, the rest of you can stay. I feel like she doesn't want to be there. Otherwise, she would stay there.
Right. But I think the fact that you're open to it to begin with does make you a bit more susceptible than someone who's, very closed off to, any sort of paranormal activity. And I'll throw her under the bus like my sister. Like my sister's probably not going to get an attachment, or at least she's less susceptible to an attachment than you, because you're open to communicating with spiritual entities where she doesn't even believe that they exist. So,
yeah. Sorry,
Tony. You're not watching though, anyway. So. And don't one of you get the idea to clip that out and show her. She can be pretty vindictive. So, so that's, okay. So I guess Justin had another comment here. So Justin says, I believe one of the main reasons why spirits can seem attached is because many living people cannot see or sense them. So they tend to stick around the people who can and who care about them. Yeah. I believe that. You're not going to continue to follow around somebody who just ignores you all the time, where you're open to communicating with them. So that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So, Tim Chung, what would your sister say about that? Yeah. I'd be in the doghouse for a while. That's for sure. So, so that's the, that's the idea of personal attachment. So we can keep going into that a little bit more as we go along throughout the episode tonight. But there's also attachments to objects, and this is something that Vanessa and I were talking about in the rabbit pellet the other day. So for those of you that haven't heard the rabbit pellet yet, you can go out to any of the podcast platforms. We have all the links there on the Edge of the Rabbit Hole page. But so iHeartRadio is the new one, Spotify, TuneIn, iTunes, all that. Give a listen to that. So we get into a couple of different examples about spirits being attached to objects. And one of the examples I gave was, I did the Robert the Doll thing. We'll get into that in a little bit because I think it's an interesting theory. But I had a coworker it was probably like 12 years ago or whatever, where her father passed away. And he was like really big into ham radios. That was a hobby of his. And when she and her sister were cleaning out his house, the radio, which he had set up in the basement, would keep kicking on and cycling through different frequencies and going through different channels and all of that stuff that he used to do. And they'd flip it off and go back upstairs, and it would happen again. So they figured out it was their father, and he was basically back down there playing around with his radio like he always did. And so they were like, "Come on, Dad, stop turning on the radio." So that's basically just a guy having such a love for his hobby. He became attached to the radio. So, I mean, what do you think?
I am 100% positive that objects can have attachments. There's been a lot of stories where people that have never experienced anything at all go to a yard sale or an antique store or go somewhere and get something that's new to them, but not brand new, that other people have owned it. And then all of a sudden they have stuff going on in the house, and then they, that's when someone asks, when someone's telling you about activity happening in their house, that's in the first line of, questioning that we ask, have you bought anything recently at a yard sale, at an estate sale, at an antique store, something that's new to you, but not new? Because if that's the only, new thing that's happened, maybe it's something that's attached to the object. So then your research should be, the property that the item came from.
Yeah, what's
is
the
a good place
provenance of
to
it?
start.
Yep. Yeah, what's the provenance of that item? I mean, if you got it from an antique store, they might have some record, might not. But you can try, and there might be a certain style. Like something that blew me away was, oh God, what is the name of it? That house up there, Katie Hopkins, you in the chat. That Rinsler. What the heck is the name of the house? The house that was there in Iowa that she worked at for years. But they had chairs in there that were exactly the same as chairs that my grandparents had. So they came from the same place. So you can try to track down, kind of where it came from. But there's a question here, kind of back into the personal attachments, because there's a good question here. And I like Justin Brown's comment here. For example, spirits probably wouldn't choose to hang out with Steve DeShavi.
Yeah.
Why not? But per Lena Liddell, she wants to know, she has one or more attachments, is wondering how you can get rid of them. So basically doing a cleansing. And there's a lot of different things that we try to do for cleansings. It's for one, there's a belief. What do you believe in? What do you believe works? So like when we do cleansings, and I don't think you and I have actually really done one together. It's been a while since I've done one, but
I've never done one.
You've never actually done one. Wow.
Nope. Does it involve using a Bible or anything? Because I don't do that.
It depends on the belief of who's there. I mean, that was our big thing on the haunted episode, Monster in the Closet. But we used to do a lot more cleansings back in the day, and it really depends on the belief system of who's there. So because it's only going to work if you believe. If you're a Bible beating Christian and somebody comes in trying to do a Wiccan cleansing, it's probably not going to stick because you don't believe in what they're performing, and vice versa. Being in Oklahoma, there were times that they wanted, because they had Native American beliefs, they wanted a Native American cleansing, so you had to bring in a Native American shaman that could do such a thing. What's your belief system for one, and then bring in somebody who knows how to do that sort of cleansing. I mean, right off, sure, you can try to sage the house and put a more positive, and create a more positive environment and things like that. But I would, if you really are, intent on cleansing it out of there, I would bring in somebody per your belief system, to try to get it out of there, because really what it comes down to eventually is your belief in getting it out of there, because it's going to be the power behind you that pushes it out, and you got to believe it's going to work.
I did. I wouldn't call it a cleansing, but I did tell one in Alton to get the hell out. So I was very angry that night too, and I was very low on sleep. I basically was like, you haven't been here since I've been here. You're brand new to this house. This does not belong to you. You're just passing through. You need to keep going. But I basically stood in the
There you
kitchen and screamed and dropped some F-bombs.
Comes down to intent.
Yeah. And said, you get out or I will remove you myself. And I had no idea how I was going to do that. You know, this was all new to me. But I was like, look, I belong here. You do not. Get the fuck out. Was basically how it went down. And man, the energy in that house changed like almost immediately. Like you could tell he was not there anymore. So I think I scared the crap out of him. But he was messing with the stuff in my kitchen on a holiday, and he was behind me in the shower, and I have a problem with that. That is a very big invasion of my privacy, and I don't care who it is, you know, especially if it's someone that's, you know, not of this realm. Stay out of my shower.
Stay out of your shower.
Stay out of my shower. You know, don't be in there. Don't do stuff like that. Let's not be creepy. So, yeah. I had no sage, no Bible, no belief, no whatever. I just had the power of, I will kick your ectoplasmic ass if you do not remove it from my property right now. And then it worked.
Yeah.
So
and I think that's what it comes down to.
I didn't use anything, just my words. That's
Bree
it.
Jones is asking what's the belief of the attachment if they're not Christian ritual may not work. I think it comes down to the power behind the person that's trying to cleanse. You know, the fact that the person that's trying to push it out is, you know, diehard, steadfast. This is working. It comes down to that intent. You are out, and you know, standing your ground. You know, kind of like, you know, when we know something's following us out from an investigation, you turn around, you're not following, you're staying here.
No.
You know, I mean, you have to have that conviction. I think a lot of people, you know, mean well. And while I think a lot of times what happens is, you know, we're doing all kinds of different things around the house. You know, we're throwing salt around, and, you know, we're throwing holy water around, and we're saging the place down. But there's still that timidity within you that's like, oh God, I hope this works. I really hope this works.
Yeah, and you can't do that.
You can't. Yeah.
You have to put 100% faith in that to work, or whatever you're trying to get rid of. And I don't mean just whatever in the house. Like, you know, if you're living somewhere and there's activity when you get there, if it's someone that was there before you, that's their place, you're the intruder. You know? I mean, you have to figure out what's there first. You know, what are you dealing with? Like, if I died in my house and I decide I want to stick around, you know, don't tell me to leave my house. It's my house. We will learn to live together. We will learn to live together respectfully and respect each other's boundaries. In a perfect world, that would happen.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of these, I would say, well, it might be a lot, it might be some, whatever. But you go to a place and maybe it's haunted or whatever, and whatever's there has been there a long, long time. Like, it, you know, it wasn't just their house 20 years ago. It was their house maybe 200 years ago, or maybe it's something attached to the land that's been there hundreds or maybe 1,000 years, you know? So it's to them, it's their domain. So you might have to come to some sort of working agreement. Now I have, you know, talking about working agreement, and it's funny that now I keep going back to this story ever since somehow a few months ago it got brought up. But it's really pertinent that a guy that I used to work with mid-90s, you know, his house was haunted with two gay men. They were a couple there in life, and in death they're still there. One was a bit of a prankster, and sometimes he'd have to be like, hey, you know, don't be doing that. But they had a working agreement. So
yeah, I mean, when you go up in a place and you notice that there is some activity, the best thing that you could ever do before starting to throw sage and holy water around is realize, hey, how about an introduction?
Yeah, figure out what's there.
Hi, my name is, and I'm moving in, you know, and, you know, if this is your place, then maybe we could learn to live together. You know, I'm moving into this house. You know, I would like for us to, you know, be able to cohabitate together. So, you know, as long as you're respectful about it, you know, there shouldn't, I don't see a problem. I moved into places that had stuff going on.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, hey.
Just looking in the chat here, and I know I'm behind on the chat right now. But Lena Ladell, who's the one that brought up the question. Sometimes it's so scary. I've done what you've done. It's crazy stuff. I understand what you're saying, but it's been years and years. Thought it was gone, but it always reemerges. Sometimes you might have to keep going back and keep going back and keep going back. If it's something that's been there a long, long, long time, it may just be like, hey, I was here before you, like long before you. So it may keep trying to come back, and the stuff that you do might push it away for a little while, but it's going to keep trying to come back because it's going to be that stubborn. You have to be just as stubborn right back. So
I mean,
you might have to do it like once a month or something.
I mean, do we even know what it is?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess that's for starters. Do you know exactly who or what it is?
No,
that's really where you got to start.
Definitely find out, because especially if you can do the research and find out if anybody had died in there, that kind of stuff is important. Like a lot of people, don't tell me, I want to guess. If you're uncomfortable with something going on in your home like that, you need to find out who it is at that point, so that way you can address them. And they were people too. If this is a person, that you're dealing with, they were people too.
Most times it is, but sometimes it's not. But, yeah.
Some people can be reasoned with, and just, be like, look, if we're going to, I'm living here too now. I don't always consider it a good idea to bring up, the whole, I'm amongst the living in this realm, you are not thing, but just be like, look, I can't see you, it's uncomfortable in here right now. I would like for it to not be that way anymore. So, there needs to be some boundaries or something. I don't mind if you're here, just do not interrupt my everyday life. Yeah. There's a way to put it out there.
Yeah. Some good comments in here. Justin Brown's the intent of the one doing the cleansing, the belief of the person getting cleansed as in the cleansing. Psychology and the paranormal intersect almost always. A sense of empowerment is key. It facilitates a change in energy. Absolutely. And Tammy Heitzman, if you have any doubt in your mind or any doubt in your own conviction or the boundaries you're establishing, it won't work. Yep, yeah, absolutely.
I kind of feel like that's probably why nothing really super scary bad happens to me. Davis even said that before. He's like, it's because, he says, I think it's the same thing with me. Like, nothing really super terrible, happens to me because I think, they get a sense that I'm not going to put up with that stuff. So don't even go there. I really feel like that's probably why, nothing bad has ever happened to me. I think all the its and the whoever's in the world probably realize, that's not going to fly. So, let's not even, waste the energy. I might look small and frail, but I am not.
Oh, you certainly are not.
No, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not going to let something I can't see control me or try to take advantage of me. So it's not going to happen that way.
Right. So, all right. So that was, well, we don't actually know, from the story, if that was a personal attachment or attachment to the building. Maybe it sounds like it was attachment to the building, to the place. Justin Brown, fears ghost bait. Yep. Mm-hmm. So we started getting into to haunted objects, and you had brought up antiques, which, we talked about finding out the provenance. Something that was really kind of interesting, Steve's Antiques. When we were down in the bowels of Mineral Springs, we didn't know where that door went.
No.
And so it was a really good lesson in antiques. So there was this iron door down there that we didn't know it went into the basement of Steve's Antiques, and we didn't know that we weren't supposed to go through that door, but it was unlocked, and it was like, where's this go? And it's like just opening it or trying to open it a little bit, it felt like somebody would like yank it back like that, and you could just feel something just nasty coming through.
Yep, there was a big wall of nope.
Yeah, Shauna did not want to go through. Shauna did go through.
I did not. And to set the scene before you even get there, there's this creepy doll carriage.
Oh, yeah, the creepy baby carriage is right there.
And I'm like, oh, man, it's kind of creepy down here, but this is really cool. I'm going to take a picture, But that whole area back there was just, my skin was just crawling that whole time. And I knew wherever our destination was, I was not going to go in there. But man, you could hear, somebody, and that door got yanked back with such force that there was somebody on the other end that pulled it shut. There was somebody there. I don't know who or what it was, but I was not going to go in.
No, you were not going to go in there.
Nope. I'm like,
and I did.
That's all you. You go.
I did. And going in there, yeah, it was a really, really heavy, oppressive feeling in there. And so there's no way to track it down to a specific object, but it was likely many of them. So, and they're all lumped in there together with whatever, I guess he was going to restore them or whatever he was doing to put them up in his shop. So yeah, definitely a good lesson in the antiques to, be careful. I love antiques. I love the old furniture. Several antiques within my family that I'm eventually going to get, which I'll be very happy about. I at least know where they're coming from.
Like those dolls over there, they came from there.
Those dolls came from Steve's Antiques?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they came from there.
No wonder there's stuff going bump in the night out here.
Right. So, but they stay in the studio, right? Mm-hmm. And whenever I finally, get my stuff together and start painting, before I give them to anybody, I might rub a little sage over them and be like, oh, okay, I don't know what's on the doll. I don't feel anything really bad coming from them. I don't feel anything scary when I'm holding on to them or anything like that. So I'm sure they'll be fine. But they look creepy though. And one of them I got just because it reminded me of that one over there, and Zara reminded me of the first girl that I saw. Especially that one, because
right, which is I guess that's why you picked up Zara.
Yeah,
is because it reminded you
because
of
in the face, and then
right.
The other one over there, she had the same dress on, and the other one I just got because she just looked creepy and her eyes are closed and she rotates and she plays music, and I can't wait to paint her. She's gonna have the cracked doll face paint on.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing her. It'll be cool.
From Tim Schoen, any famous historical objects with attachments? Let's see. I gotta think of something here because there are. Yeah. What would be a good one? Well, I mean, there's always the curse of King Tut, right? Talk about a historical object. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different curses associated with that, and everybody who went down into that tomb. So, that's just kind of one right off the bat. But, there's some different, I'm trying to think, there's some different paintings out there that are supposed to be haunted. I'd have to rack my brain a little bit. But, yeah, there's some different historic objects out there that are supposed to have attachments to them. Not Zach's WX box. So, but it's in a museum right now. Down in Key West, that's supposed to have something attached to it. Robert the doll.
Right.
And so I did want to get to that. I mean, what's interesting to me about that, its origins are in Germany somewhere. It's where the aunt got it. And we brought this up during the Haunted Dolls episode that we did back in, it was last fall or something. And I did briefly mention it on the Haunted Dolls episode on Friday night for Friday Night Ghost Frights. I just threw it out there as a question. But this is something that's kind of interesting to me with this particular doll, is that a lot of people believe that there was some sort of spirit that was attached to the doll and played with Gene Otto when he was a child. And then now, after Gene has long since passed and it's in this museum, now the doll is putting curses on people. Supposedly, you take his photo and you have to, if you don't get permission, which I don't know how you actually get permission. If you ask, how does he say yes? I don't know. People who have supposedly been cursed end up writing letters to ask to have the curse removed. So this entity is supposed to be attached, cursing people now. And before, being really creepy within the house, playing with Gene apparently, scaring away the plumber, standing in the window, creeping out the neighbors, all this stuff. Here is my theory on it, is that I don't think a spirit was attached to that doll to begin with. I think it was Jean, as a young child, experiencing telekinesis, very, very focused telekinesis, because he got that doll when he was like 4 years old. And, we talk about the PK activity and what we call poltergeist activity, that, it ends up manifesting itself all over the place. Things are getting thrown around and all this stuff. Poltergeist activity, not a poltergeist. Two different things. Conversation for another time. But his was very, very focused into the doll, so it made the doll seem to come alive. And so people would hear the voices. Things would get moved around the house by the doll. The doll would stand in the window, be creepy, spook the plumber, all that stuff. I think it was Jean focused into there. Now in death, I think what's attached to the doll, and maybe the quote-unquote curse or whatever, is Jean. That's my theory
with that.
So I don't know if you guys have opinions on Robert the Doll down in there, but that's the theory that I throw out there about that. So attachment now, but before it was maybe Jean's personal love sort of attachment to the doll, because the aunt's original purpose for getting the doll was because Jean was very young. So to have this as his friend until he got a little bit older, got into school, made friends. Except Jean never really made friends. He just stayed with the doll. So, kind of my idea. Yeah, Tom McNicholas, Robert the Doll, you need to ask permission to take pictures of him. Yeah, that's the legend. So, per Nick, wasn't Robert the Doll given by a Haitian priest who practiced voodoo? No. I know there's that going around about Robert the Doll. I'm not sure where that originated, but he was acquired in Germany by Robert's aunt. It was also a mysterious death with the aunt within the house when she came to visit one time. So some people try to say that was because of Robert, but she was older too. So so that is a specific object. Still trying to rack my brain for any other historical ones. I know there's a lot of them out there. Just I guess Google's your friend. I just can't think right now. And Daniela Stas, as a child, a German aunt brought it to the USA as a gift. Yes. So I guess Lena Liddell and Donna are conversing there. So I hope that's getting resolved. Kathy Silianto, Pella Curse Tablet. Interesting story. I'm not familiar with that one. So, do tell. So probably probably the most common though would be the attachments to buildings, because that's usually what we encounter when we go to investigate. Whether it's a house, a boat, a historic location. Like you would say, like Captain Minky had an attachment to the Golden Round Showboat.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, so I mean, what's going to happen is that somebody has a love for a place, like with him. That boat was his life, and so after he passed away, he just stayed on the boat.
Yeah.
And you saw him there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw him a couple of times on there, and and I know I've seen him. Seen his pictures. So many times. And then one time it looked like the most recent pictures of him before he died, but then there was another one where it looked like him in the face, like exactly in the clothes too, but just his hair was not white. And that's the way it was the first time I saw him. And then after that, his hair was white. So I don't know if he was trying to show me as a younger guy, thinking, hey, maybe, I don't
You think
know.
he's trying to pick up on you?
I don't know, why. But then, the second time I saw him, he looked just like he did in his pictures. And so I was like, okay. It's like, I don't care what you look like as long as you, come out and talk to me. I don't care. Hello to Riley and Kaylee.
Riley and Kaylee are watching? All right.
They say
How's it
hello
going?
to Uncle Mike and Aunt Shauna.
Great to have you guys out here. Yeah, with him, I mean, certainly him. There's also his brother Charlie, which we didn't really realize at first that was probably him up there. But every time we'd walk through that corridor, we'd get that like almost ominous, dark feeling.
Yeah.
And we came to find out later that even though the configuration up there is different, was different before it burned down, that his room was there. And so, Charlie being connected to Annie had a tragic accident, just showed up one morning drowned next to the boat after running off into the St. Louis night after an argument with her father. But there was something going on between Charlie and Annie. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So these different spirits have attachments to the boat. And the question that comes up commonly from everybody, I know somebody's going to throw it down there in the chat, what happens when that place is gone that you had the attachment to? Right. Like the boat is now, there's a part of the hull, I think it's underwater right now, but yeah. So where do they go?
But there are a lot of artifacts still. And I think if the venue that they used to inhabit is no longer there, I feel like maybe they go where family, relatives of some kind, maybe they, wander places that they visited before, or maybe they, try to stay in contact with people now, who still care about them. Captain Mankey knows that he's welcome around me anytime as long as he doesn't smoke in the house.
Right.
So Jake says, whenever you go into the storage unit where the artifacts are, as soon as you open the door, it's just like,
well, maybe he's hanging out with the artifacts because those are remnants of the Golden Rod. That's what's left of it. Yeah. So I could see that, him hanging out with the artifacts. Pamela Swan says, I have a bullet from Vietnam. It was made into a cross. It has an attachment or possibly residual haunting. I wear it every day. It followed me around my daughter's house, so I put it on. Any thoughts? It's possible. Whatever, if somebody was killed with that bullet, it's very possible that their energy got attached to the bullet,
Yeah, it's like these different objects, like people, sometimes can act as a beacon, like something about it calls to them and they follow it.
Yeah, or did the event of what happened, if that bullet actually did kill somebody, did the energy of that killing, I don't know if it was straight up murder or if it was during war, did that death, the energy released from it, imprint onto the bullet? Kind of like the whole stone tape theory.
Yeah,
it's possible. It's possible that could have happened. So Kathy Ciliento talking about the cursed tablet. 1986, archaeologists unearthed the cursed tablet during excavations of the ancient Macedonian capital of Pella, created between 375 and 350 BC. The Pella tablet is an inscribed lead scroll. The writer, Dagina, calls upon divine powers to solve her problem. Her beloved Dinosophon, butchering the name, is on the precipice of marriage to another, and Dagina wants him for herself and beseeches the gods for assistance in love. All right. I'd have to look more into that. And Daniela, thank you very much. She's showing love for the website. MikeRicksecker.com has like the whole list of like different creepy haunted dolls. So I posted that as a blog on Monday. So yeah, be sure to check that out after the show. I appreciate that. Cool. So so I mean, that's probably primarily what we deal with is the attachments to certain locations. Even where we were just investigating this past weekend in that particular house, and we believe that, especially you, connected with one of the sisters, one of the aunties, whatever you want to. I mean, it was one of the women that was there.
Yes, definitely. I could not be. I'm about as certain as I can be without being 100% certain, which I never am of anything. Especially in this field, you can never be 100 unless I have documentation in my hand or that person matches a visual of who I see. It's just my own personal experience, my own personal opinion. So, but I very clearly heard a yes. And whenever we ask if they're just going through the names, we had the names. Because especially, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, a lot of people, especially like a psychic medium or something like that, might not want to know anything going in. And I get that, but I'm not going in, as a psychic medium. So, I want to know. And the reason that I want to know is because some of these places are endangered. And you never know, if you go in today, you might not be able to go in tomorrow. You may lose complete access to some of these places tomorrow, which has happened, and then not get to go in there again, and then the mystery is still out there. You never got to find out who it was that you connected with. So you can believe that whenever I go into a place, I'm going to have some names. I want to know what's going on there, because I know whenever you name drop, 9 times out of 10, someone's going to be like, oh, here I am. How's it going? Thanks for getting the time to figure out who I am and to know me. And, that's that that they respect you for doing that. Majority of the time, a lot of them don't want to be bothered.
Well, that's like the story that I tell all the time about the World War II airplane that I investigated years ago now, and Daniela, vielen Dank, where we were getting nothing, and it was like an honor that they let us into this World War II airplane that saw action during the war, and we're getting nothing, and finally I just mentioned about how I had served in the Air Force, for 6 years. And I started talking about a little bit of the history, how I knew that the Air Force came out of the Army Air Corps, for which he would have flown for. Boom, 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 boom. We started getting some activity. So basically I just, related personally to the guy who was there, was the navigator, is what we ended up figuring out. So yeah, he's there, apparently attached to the plane. He might be free to roam, I don't know, but he was there with the plane that night. And just relating yourself to them is better than just walking in and being like, can you make a noise? Can you open a door? Hit me.
Can you talk into my box, please?
Yeah. I love.
Can you talk to the red light?
I love Steve bringing that up tonight too. It's like, what the fuck am I gonna do with the ghost box?
It's like, I can tell you what to do with it.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Oh, I had a great time with that. And so I'm still a little fried from that. So for those of you coming in a little bit late, we had a great interview with Steve DeShavi on Edge of the Rabbit Hole tonight on the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out afterwards.
Oh my God, it was funny.
Yeah, that was great.
He was great.
Yep. So, all right. Getting down toward the end of the show here. I don't know if there's anything else that we want to. What else do we want to talk about with spirit attachments? I mean, we hit on people, we hit on objects, we've hit on locations. Sounds like Donna's helping the person down there in chat, which is good. Because we couldn't spend the whole show on that. Apologies, but so I hope Donna's helping you. So, anything else?
I don't know.
All right. Well, if you guys have any last minute questions, go ahead and throw them down there in the chat. I do really want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. I know we don't have super chat superstars with the Facebook feed, but what we are going to start doing is uploading these to YouTube. So if you missed this here, by the end of the week, I will have it re-uploaded to YouTube. Another thing that I'm trying here. with this, since we kind of like changed up how we're doing the shows, because this used to just run straight on YouTube. We moved it here for some different reasons that we're trying. You can also, if you're just in your car and you missed the show, you can also pick up on the podcast. So it's the Mike Ricksecker audio journey. You can go to MikeRicksecker.com and get those links, or you can just look it up on iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify, Google, Stitcher. So that's where it's at right now.
So the Edge of the Rabbit Hole show that we just had, that would be available to listen to that. You might want to be careful while driving listening to that one.
Yeah,
yeah.
When that gets moved on to audio, I wonder how iHeartRadio is going to feel about that. So, because Edge of the Rabbit Hole is now on iHeartRadio, I'm in the process of trying to get Mike Ricksecker audio journey there as well. So there's a lot of different places where you can get all the content. Let's see. Here we go. Erica Blassie Davis. Why do you think spirits are active around water sources? I mean, water is always considered a good source of energy for paranormal activity. Mm-hmm. And I mean, water has always been considered a good source of energy for, many things. I mean, it's a conductor of electricity. We use it for all different sorts of functions that require energy, like hydraulic dams. Back in the day, you'd use it for your mill, to grind corn or whatever you were doing with your mill. So water has a lot of properties associated with energy. So it always becomes that great conductor for paranormal activity, especially on nights where it storms.
Yeah. Yeah, those are always good nights because there's a lot of electricity with storms anyway. So if you're near a body of water and there's a storm, that's going to be a good night.
Kathy Silliento, do you guys know much about shapeshifters? Would love to find out more info about that. We'll have to do another show on shapeshifters.
I have a story, though. It's a little one. It's a little one. It's the only one I have. When I lived across the street from my parents and I was near the woods, I saw, there was a lot of activity on that property, but I saw a female and she was wearing, it looked like scrubs, but not really the same, like nursing scrubs or whatever, not really the same material, but they were brown, and she was blonde, and she was pretty tan, but I didn't really feel human vibes coming off of her. And I was kind of surprised because, she looked female, she looked human. But whenever I initially felt her coming before I saw her, I did not feel human. I thought it was like a dog or like an animal or something coming. And, just had that coming out from wherever she came from. And but then whenever I saw her, and it shocked me, I didn't realize I was about to see a person on my property, but I didn't get very close because I didn't know who she was. I didn't know what she was. I just knew it didn't feel like a typical human spirit energy.
Interesting.
So,
all right. Shapeshifter episode coming up.
Yeah, and like I said, we know there's a lot of mounds in the area.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of. I mean, you had a lot of Native American activity going on there, and Native Americans always talked about shapeshifters.
Yeah, I mean, if I walk out to the top of my parents' hill and throw a rock, I can hit one.
Yeah,
where the school is. So if I throw a rock really hard, I could hit one. Yeah. And so I just always kind of wondered if. Maybe it wasn't something, Native American. She didn't look Native American, but yeah, there's just something about her that just didn't seem human. But, when you say, oh, it wasn't human, what people think it probably was. It wasn't a typical human spirit. Right, then, it must be a demon. No,
it's got to be a demon. Yeah.
No, I don't feel like she was that either. I just don't feel like she has always been human.
Gotcha. Okay, Lynn O'Ladell says, I'd like to talk with you if that's all right. Yeah, feel free to drop us a line. Looks like you tagged the wrong Mike down there, Mike Ricksecker. But yeah, you feel free to contact either one of us. That's fine. Or you can just drop a note there on the Haunted Road Media page in the inbox.